HaKadosh Baruch Hu Masechet Ketubot Daf Vav Amud Aleph 76A1 says the Gemara. If you're talking about, remember, we're talking about that there's three different chazakot, two claims pro for the woman and one against her. The two for the woman was cheskat aguf, the chazakah of the body. Second one was that the bedika, the chazakah, that a person will always check his cup before drinking, so he checked her out before actually getting engaged to her. So those are two pro for the woman. Therefore, if he already checked her, he accepted it. And that's going against the one, which is on Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, we're starting today, which is basically talking about that what? That it's one that a person will not accept upon himself mumin, which means it's a chazakah. A person already knows there's a blemish, you're going to take it, right? You're going to buy a book. You already know there's a blemish, you're going to accept it. There's a chazakah, usually you won't accept it, unless obviously they're coming, they're giving you a much cheaper price or something like that. What? Yeah, that's true, 100%, right? It's one against two, and we don't say one against two. Before the Irusin, you have the guf al chezkato, luika lemeimad, maika. So there's only the chazakah, the what? That a person will not take it into the cup unless he's going to check it, and then he accepted it, and he was appeased. Adrabah, the opposite. So and then you put the mamon on the chazakah, which means that the baal should be patur, which means 1 second. You also have chizkat mamon. Chazakah, where's the money? Right? Where's the money? The husband. So he has to pay up. So he's got a chazakah. Where's the money by? It's in the husband's possession. So now you want to take it away from the husband, you take it away. So therefore also you should have that also in mind. So therefore, what are you talking about? So Rav Ashi comes and he says, you're right. Reisha maneh le'aba b'yadecha, ve'seifa maneh li b'yadecha. What are we talking about? The Reisha of the Mishnah, which is talking about that the mum was found in the father's house. It's ki'ilu, somebody saying maneh le'aba b'yadecha. You are obligated 100 zuz to my father. And therefore, since the mum was found when she was at a rusa, not a nesua, if he's going to get divorced, the ketubah, right, is lavia. So now what happens is the tviyah is mitzad avia, not from her. Who gets the ketubah? If she, the father of the girl. Meaning like this. Until, no. You're talking about who keeps it to make sure that it doesn't get lost. We're not talking about that. If the man actually has to pay her up.
The money.
The husband has to pay her the money. He gets divorced from her. He has to pay her the money. Who keeps the money? So as long as she's still engaged and not married, the father of the girl keeps the money. But since he could get his daughter married, he's the one that keeps the money. Once she gets 100% married, she keeps the money. So says the Gemara, the fact that we're still talking about a rusin, so therefore it's the father that keeps the money, so he's the one that has to bring the proof. The seifa, there's some manali biyadcha, right, that he's saying in his mind. So therefore, since she's already married, so therefore she keeps it for herself. So she's the one that's coming and demanding the ketubah. Since she's the one that's demanding the chazakah, we use her cheskat aguf to help her to take it away from the husband. Meaning, when it's the father that's demanding the money of the ketubah, he cannot use his daughter's cheskat aguf. But when it's her herself using, right, going after the money of the ketubah, she could use her cheskat aguf in order to take out the money from the husband. So the Gemara is going to ask, ask Rabbi Meir is going to agree that we're talking about blemishes which are fitting to come from the house of the father, that it's on the father to bring the proof. Why? It's the same thing. Why is it, since she's already married, and therefore who gets a ketubah? She does. Why does the father have to bring the proof then? The father has nothing to do with it anymore. Meaning, what did you just tell me? You just told me that the second that, right? 1 second. If you're going to tell me that the second that, what respect? Here we're talking about a mum. The mum, there's already a mum. Nobody's arguing about the mum. Right? No. That's another case. We're talking about, also we're talking about the mum. We're talking about mumin. Everything is mum. No. But we're not talking about anymore the betulim. We were comparing it to betulim. But we're talking about here, mumin, a mum, a blemish. So the question is, if right now we're talking about a blemish, so therefore, why do we say that the father has to bring in raya? What does it have to do with it? So answers the Gemara, right? Biteret. What is a biteret? She has an extra finger. Okay? Which means that we're not going to say that this came only after Yusin. Right? Because basically he has to come and he has to bring a proof that it came afterwards, which means like this. Normally, when is a person born with an extra finger? From birth. Understand? It doesn't come afterwards. A person just doesn't come and start growing, right? Another finger. Understand? So because of that, right? So basically, yeah, he comes and says, right? So he comes that he says that's why the father has to bring a raya. Yeteret, my raya, where are you going to bring a proof then? Right? Obviously, it's a mum milida. It's something that came from birth. right? So it says the Gemara, Re'aya dira'av and ipayesu. No, the father has to bring a proof that the husband saw it and he was mipayes. That's what he has to bring. Right? Which means he has to bring a proof that he noticed it and that he was okay with it. Right? So
why the father had to bring a
right?
proof?
He gave it the other hand, the right hand. Right? So Amar Rav Yehuda Mashmuel says Rav Yehuda Mashmuel, Hamachlif para bechamor. Right? We're going to bring another halacha of Shemuel that she has to bring a proof from the Mishnah. Hamachlif para bechamor. Right? Imagine right now you're switching a para with a chamor. Right? This happens all the time. Right? You come, you take a para, you switch to the chamor. Yeah? So he comes and he says, Umashach bala chamor et para. So the bala chamor comes and he takes a para. Velo yispik la para limshoch et chamor shemet chamor. Right? You understand what happened?
No.
Right? One more time. I've got a lot of chamors. So you guys have the shore. I've got a lot of chamors. Yeah? So what happens is he comes and says, right, like this. Right? We were making a switch, right? When we're making the switch, what happens is that let's say, for example, I'm going to come and I'm going to grab the bala chamor, right? That's me. I'm the bala chamor. I grab the para, so I'm moving it. Remember, in order to make a kinyan acquisition, you have to move it. Nowadays, they make acquisitions with handshakes, documents, money. There's many different forms of acquisition.
It's a transaction.
Of course, it's a transaction. Transaction. Velo yispik bala para. You guys did not have enough time to grab, right, the chamor until the chamor dropped dead. Dropped dead. So now what happens? The bala para comes, right, and he says, 1 second, there was no kinyan. If there was no kinyan, right, it didn't belong to me yet. So therefore you lose out. Who loses out here? At the end of the day, I need the kinyan on your animal. But you had to do the kinyan on my animal dropped dead before you did the kinyan. So now who loses that animal? Is that animal being lost? The owner? Or is it the new guy, but he just didn't have time to actually come and actually do the kinyan, the acquisition? So says the Gemara, 1 second, please. Al bala chamor lavi raya, shayach chamoro kayam b'shat neshichat hapara. The owner of the chamor has to bring a proof that the chamor was still alive when he went and he dragged the para. So because if he's going to be alive during the time that he was moshech la para, he already did the kinyan, and automatically the other guy did his kinyan. And therefore, but he says, but if he cannot bring the raya, no. The Tana tuna kala. What does that mean? He comes and says, our Tana is teaching us this also to do with the kala. So it says, hi kala. Who's the kala? The short of the chamor. Yeah? Who's the kala? Right? The short of the, who's the kala? Ilema. If you're going to talk, Ayin Baba Mubet. Listen carefully. Ayin Baba Mubet. Yeah? If you're going to tell me that the kala is bevet avia, if you're going to tell me we're in Baba Mubet, 76b, if you're going to tell me now that the kala is in the house of her father, so says the Gemara, Midami, can you come and compare both cases? Hata maiti avra yaw mapik. There, the father is bringing a proof and taking out the money from the husband. Hacha here, maiti bala chamor raya umokim. He's bringing a proof and then he's staying with something. Meaning, it's not. What are you comparing two things? In the case of the father, right? What happened? The father brings a proof, right, that this happened obviously before after the engagement or whatever it is. And then what happens? He's taking out money from the husband. So therefore, the one that's bringing the proof is taking out the money.
Same
right?
Here.
Here's the opposite.
No, why?
Here, the bala chamor is bringing a proof that the chamor was. So I'm not taking away from the. I already did the kinyan on the thing. What I have to do is I'm coming and I'm keeping it. I'm not taking something away from you. It's not like the other way around. The bala shor is bringing a proof that the guy's dead and then he takes away the chamor. No, it's the opposite. He's staying with something. It's not that he's taking out something. So you can't compare both cases. So Amar Rabbi Abba says Rabbi Abba, Kala bevet chamia. No, the proof of Shemuel was like the Kala, that she has mumin only after she went into the husband's house. Right? Bevet chamia. Remember in the olden days, exactly opposite of what happens in olden days, right? Right? In the olden days, who used to stay by you? All the boys. Who used to go away? All the girls. Right? Nowadays, usually it's the opposite. Usually the girls stay with their parents and the boys are the ones that go away. And I said that's what once upon a time they used to stay. They used to, the men used to take over the family businesses. They used to, and the girls they got married wherever their husband was, and that was the halakha. That was the normal, right? That was what it used to be. So he says now she's in the bet chamia in her father-in-law's house. Why did he say in the father-in-law's house? Because that's where they usually live. So he comes and he says, so therefore, in such a case, right? Then now it actually makes sense because here, right, what's going to happen? He has to bring a proof in order to take it away. So it's just like the balachamor. So just like in the case of the chamor, the balachamor has to bring a proof in order to prove and not take out money, right? So the same thing. The husband has to bring a proof and then he's not going to take out money. He says, but it's still not a good proof. Why? Hatam over there, Baal Maiti Raya Umara Dav. When the husband brings a proof, he gets rid of the chazakah, right? Of what? Of the father. Meaning there was a cheskata guf, right, by the father, right? The father of the girl, right? And when the husband comes and he's bringing his proof, he's destroying the chazakah of the father. Hacha, in our case, balachamor maiti raya mukim cheska biyadeh. The balachamor is not destroying the chazakah of the balashor, of the owner of the ox, right? What's he doing? He's just bringing a proof that his animal was alive, right? And therefore, he's strengthening his chazakah, but he's not destroying the other chazakah. Meaning, in the case of the girl and everything, right? When the husband comes and brings a proof that destroys the chazakah of the father of the girl, here you're not destroying. In the case of the shor and the chamor, the ox and the donkey, nobody's destroying anybody's chazakot. It's just I'm bringing a proof that my chamor was alive at the time when I came and I did the meshicha, the pulling of the shor, and then that's a proof. So Amar Nachman Yitzchak said, Nachman Yitzchak, Kala bevet aviha. When we are talking about the case of what? Of the Kala in her father's house, ul kiddushin. And we're talking about the money of the kiddushin, which is given to the father. Because the father has to bring a proof, right, that it belongs to him, right, in order that it stays in his possession. That means according to Shitat of Yoshua, not only does the father have to bring a proof in order to collect the ketubah, he has to bring a proof in order to stay with the money of kiddushin. In the olden days, right, it wasn't only with the ring. It became a minhag to do with the ring. But they used to use money. So they used to come to a girl and say, right, right, said, with this money. Now, it could be a lot of money, right? Nowadays, they do it with a ring purposely, and they do it with a very, in the olden days, right, they could have done it with anything, you understand? And it would be with money. Now, she sees the money, she accepts it, and that's it. So now, who keeps the money? The father. So now, not only does the father, right? So now, not only does the father have to come and show a chazakah, bring a proof to take the money out of the husband for the ketubah, he needs to bring a proof to stay with the money of the kiddushin. So therefore, there it is exactly the case. The chamor, you're staying with the chamor. So it says the Gemara, don't tell me that it's not like going to be like 100% a matana, which means like this. There's a famous question, even by the way in halakha. There's this question. What happens? Well, like first, it could happen all the time. They break up the engagement. Who keeps the ring? Yeah. There's a big question about that in halakha. There's no question. Does he have to give it back? Not give it back? Fine. Here, the Gemara says there's one mandamar that says, what happens if the husband died before getting married to her? He only did the irusin, which is the first stage of marriage, and then he dies. Who keeps the money of the kiddushin? Says the Gemara, according to the mandamar, kiddushin lav letibuin mitzvah, which means that it was not given as a matana gemura, which means that if he dies, the kala has to come and give back the money to his inheritors. Right? According to, again, there's a machloket, there's a contradiction, right? There's two different opinions. But according to this opinion, she would have to actually give back the money to the inheritors. But even according to the mandama kiddushin, to believe that it is a present, that's only if it's going to be a full kiddushin, 100% and a certain one. But if it's going to be a mistake, if they bring a proof, yes. But if none don't, they don't. Which means that you see from here something incredible. You see from here that it's only going to be if there's 100% of kiddushin, so then she keeps the money. But if it's not going to be 100% of kiddushin, not here, there's a safek on the kiddushin. Why? Since we have a doubt that maybe the kiddushin was not a kiddushin at all because maybe she had a blemish from beforehand and he didn't know about it, and therefore it was a mistake. So therefore the kiddushin was not a good kiddushin. Right. So because of that, doesn't need a tie. Doesn't need a tonight. No. On a mum, you don't need a tonight. On a mum, it's automatic. Right? Which means that you don't, if a person comes and he gets married to a woman and she has a machala, right? Right? And she didn't say anything. She didn't say, you didn't make it tonight. You don't need to make it tonight. It was a mekach taut from the beginning. She didn't reveal that she had a sickness, which is terminal illness, And there, again, we're talking about terminal illness. I was very careful with my words. Right? We're talking about a defect, which mamash, you have to say according to everybody. Right? We're not talking about a defect that, she might have, I don't know what. No. We're talking about a defect, which is a terminal illness, which means that she could probably die 5 months after the wedding. You understand? Something like that. So no, there she had to say it. She didn't say it. I don't care about tonight. With tonight, without tonight, it was a mistake. Therefore, he gets rid of her. There's no ketubah. There's no nothing. He doesn't have to pay her a penny. So here the same thing. So Meitvei, we're going to ask a question. What about dinet trefot? We know that when you buy meat, a lot of people, they think, what's the big deal? Rabbi, it's kosher. Yeah, what's kosher? The rabbi came and he blessed it. Right? He blessed the animal. Right? As long as he came and he made a bracha on top of the head of the ox. Right? He made a misha barach. Now you can eat it. Yeah, that's what people think. No. It's very difficult. The lachot of trefot and everything, very, very, very difficult. Some people go, yeah. You have to be very careful when you're buying meat and you're buying all these things. Right? Especially when you see, right, that what happens is that they come and they switch and everything. And remember, kashrut is the most important. Why is kashrut the most important? Because the first thing that they tell anybody to keep is kosher. If you're keeping kosher, you could become a Baal Teshuvah, you could become Shomer Shabbat, you could do anything. If you're not eating kosher, you completely go off the path. Right? Remember that. That's why it's one of the first thing that they come and they teach you to keep. When a person wants to do Teshuvah, the first thing is kosher. Right. Because as long as you're eating kosher, everything else will come. If you're going to do the other way around, Chas Shalom, you have a person, like he's a religious guy, but then he's eating not kosher. Right? What happens? You all of a sudden see Shabbat by him is already starting to become questionable. This by him becomes questionable. Why? Because the kosher is the most important. So here we're talking about terefot. What is a terefa? You have an animal, you did shechita. How do you do shechita? Remember, they come, they slaughter the animal. Okay, so they slaughter the animal. After slaughtering the animal, it doesn't finish by there, right? After slaughtering the animal, they have to check with the lungs, they have to check everything to make sure that there's nothing that would have made it, that it would have died within the year. That's called a terefa. So he says, what happens if you find a machat be'ovi betakosot? There's a needle which is found in the stomach area of the animal, betakosot, okay, which is basically in the walls. What? A needle. Yes, a needle. Okay. It's now, right? So he says, mitzad echad, right? If it's going to be, right, and they bring everything in their mouth, yeah. So mitzad echad, if it's only going to be on one side of the betakosot, it's going to be kosher. Mishnet tzadin, if it goes through both sides of the stomach area, it's going to be a trefa, right? It's considered a trefa. Nimtza le'akurt dam, but if you find any type of blood on it, yadua shelifnei shchita, it's known that this hole already came from before the shchita. Ve'lo nimtza le'akurt dam, if you don't find any blood on it, yadua shu le'ashchar shchita, it could be that the hole was made after the shchita, and therefore it's going to be kosher. Uglad pia baka. If right now there's a scab is, when a person gets a wound, and then afterwards a scab comes and covers it over. So if there's going to be a scab over, right, this hole, it was known that it was already 3 days before Shechita, meaning that they did the slaughtering, and it passed 3 days, right, which means that when he already had this needle go inside of him, it passed 3 days, so that way there was a scab that was coming over it, right? So then you have to bring a proof in order to see if it's going to be kosher or not kosher. Now says the Gemara like this. If the tabach comes and he gives the money, which means like this, in the olden days, the way that it used to be was, I had animals, I come to the shochet, which is the rabbi that's doing the shechita, and he does it. And then we're going to come and he's going to take the money and then, okay, fine. What happens right now? Nowadays, it's not like that. Nowadays, they come, right? And it doesn't even belong to the shochet either, right? It belongs to the slaughterhouse or whatever it is. They're taking all the animals and then they're coming and they're sending it to the distributors and they're selling the animals off. But now, one second. I just came and I brought an animal. I brought it to the shochet. Right? So you come, do shechita, right? And all of a sudden, right, we have a question. Is it kosher, not kosher? Now, who's going to bring a proof, right, to pay me or not money? Because obviously, if it's not a kosher animal, how much are you going to give me? You're going to give me like an animal, like a dead animal. Right? You're going to give me like nothing, basically, a much lower amount of money. If it's a kosher animal and you can actually sell it on the market, so now you're going to make money off of it. So now you pay me good bucks. You understand? So now the question is, who brings the proof and everything? So they have tabach dameh. If it's going to be the tabach, the one that's doing the shechita, already came and he gave it the money to the seller, so he has to bring a proof, and then he takes the money back. Says the Gemara, why? The owner of the animal should bring the proof, and he should stay with the money. Meaning, again, there's two ways of looking at it. Do you have to bring the proof and take the money out, or do you have to bring the proof and you keep the money? Which one is it? That's what the Gemara is asking. So answers the Gemara, the tabach never gave money yet. Meaning he didn't pay until he was going to see if it was a kosher animal or not. So says the Gemara, my pascha. So what is it? Well, what is it exactly? Does the Tana hold that who has to bring the proof? Right? So says the Gemara, I'm not going to listen to all these klalim that Yehuda Achi Mishmei Shmuel said in the name of Shmuel. This is what Shmuel says. Anytime that the safek was in his reshut, in his possession, he has to bring. It's incumbent upon him to bring the proof. Meaning, where did the doubt come? Where is the animal at the time of the doubt? If it's there, it probably happened there. If it didn't. Exactly where we go. So it says Vitana Tunakala. Right? So he comes and he says, Meitvei, so we have a question then. If you're going to tell me now this case of the needle that goes inside of the stomach, if you're going to tell me now that he didn't give the money, so then the owner of the animal should bring the proof and he should take out the money, right? So he says, why? Where was the safek? In the hands of the shochet. Meaning the shochet already did the shchita, so it's in his hands. So if it's in his hands, if it's incumbent upon him to bring the proof, not the animal, not the owner of the animal. So answers the Gemara, no, in that case, he already paid. Which means that since the guy already paid, so therefore that's why he has to actually come and bring the proof to take it out. My paska. So what's the psal? Stama de minta, right? The stam is kama de loev inish zuze, loev inish chivita. What does that mean? As long as the person does not pay, so therefore the mocher is not going to give the animal, which means you'll never get it unless you actually pay. Meaning if you already have it in your hands, that means you already paid for it. Because usually people will not give you something on credit, right? Unless you actually paid for it. Right? And that's what we do nowadays. Nowadays, you want something. What do? You have to pay. Amazon, right, it's a bit chidusha. You try on, it's a whole thing that you try before you pay. It doesn't exist. You pay, you take. You don't pay, you don't take. That's what he's saying, the same thing. And we'll start with Zat Hashem tomorrow. I will just